r/AskReddit. What's the craziest thing you've ever seen at work? I was the manager at a small casino running a blackjack tournament. I watched a man have a heart attack before my very eyes. It was the end of the round for that table. The man advanced to the next round. As soon as the hand was over and was about to congratulate him, I saw the exact moment that he realized that something was wrong. He grabbed his chest and his lips instantly turned gray. It just so happened that the person sitting directly to his right was respiratory nurse. She realizes immediately what's happening and throws him on the ground and starts CPR. She took full control of the situation like a hero in the movies. It was horrific and inspiring at the same time. The man made a special visit to the casino 2 weeks later to let us know that he was okay. To me, this wasn't crazy because I watched a man almost die. This was crazy because I saw the exact moment that he realized that he was in trouble. I saw the exact moment the nurse's instincts and training kicked in. I'll never forget it. I watched an old lady die or a heart attack in court. She was a victim in a case and she was giving a statement at sentencing. She was cool as a cucumber, but as she was about to finish up her statement, she asked for a moment, stumbled a step, and then bam, face first into the floor. The deputies tried to revive her, but when fire arrived they said it was too late and that she probably died seconds after hitting the floor. Major heart attack. What made it worse was her family was with her in court. Can you imagine watching a loved one die so suddenly like that in front of you? That shit haunts me dreams. I'm fairly certain that a guest came into our zoo with the intent of receiving a golden shower from a lion. For some backstory, if you've never seen those videos of lions pissing on zoo guests, you should look it up. Males can spray urine 10+ feet through the caging. It stinks worse than you could ever believe. We've had guests puke before when they got sprayed, and it's just about impossible to wash off. You don't want to put water on that, trust me. We even have signs up warning people that lions can spray urine. One day, this guy comes in during the morning, and first place he goes is to the lion exhibit. Stands 5 feet from the bars. I caution him about the urine, and he ignores me. Half an hour later, I notice he's still right there, standing almost still. I tell him I'm not kidding. They spray through the bars sometimes. He nods and backs away a bit. 10 minutes later I find him closer to the bars than he was before. I think okay, whatever, not my fault if you get peed on. I told a couple coworkers about this guy as we went about our morning chores. Another keeper told me, half an hour later, that he got sprayed by a lion. Apparently he was pretty calm about it and didn't start retching like most people do. Walked straight out of the zoo and back to his car, drenched in lion urine. In college I was a black car service driver, as well as being in the National Guard. As a driver, my job was to ensure these guests, NFL players, actors, millionaires, wedding guests, politicians etc. enjoy their 2 minutes, 6-hour ride with me. That means I'd have fresh hot coffee in the back, or their favorite pizza for the ride, favorite music and air temperature, according to their assistants. It was a fun gig, and I got to meet famous people. Wedding parties were the worst. One day, I'm in between runs, and make a stop at a 7-Eleven to grab items for my next ride. Someone is upset inside the store, so I jump in my car and relax to get out of there. Next thing I know the dude is in the small parking lot screaming at the 7-Eleven. 2 employees are holding the double doors shut. Belligerent dude pulls a knife and says he's going to stab them. Customers are lined up inside the windows and I appear to be the only person on the outside, but in my car, eating and watching the drama. Guy makes several attempts to enter the store but no luck. All of a sudden the doors swing open. A tall cashier had gotten a running start and flew out with some nunchucks. Guy with knife, upon seeing the doors swing open and a dude at full gallop falls over. He gets around the corner, tripping and the cashier starts going in on him. The guy ends up stabbing the cashier several times, but nothing life-threatening. I had gotten out of the car by then and was witnessing everything. I later had to testify in court. My favorite job was driving Ike Woods to film this commercial. Edit. Oh, and court went long and the prosecutor didn't want to let me leave to add coins to my on-street parking spot. I was about to testify. I later go outside and had received a parking ticket. Great day. Okay, I worked as a spa/salon manager for a while. I'll make this as succinct as I can. One day a very professional looking well-dressed woman came in for a massage and sauna. She was from out of town, never been in before. During her massage she made some funny sounds and apparently some funny smells. She doesn't say anything, or get up, or indicate that anything is wrong. After the massage the therapist goes back into the room to discover that this lady has had diarrhea all over the table. We are very concerned about cleanliness and hygiene, so there is a mad dash to clean and disinfect. In the meantime this woman has put on a robe and walked straight into the sauna, where she removed her now shitty robe and sat in her shitty puddle for like 30 minutes. She left the robe and went to the dressing room. She dressed, came out, paid like nothing happened and left. The sauna was shut down to be disinfected. Our poor spa attendant frantically cleaned everything in the dressing room, only then to discover this woman had destroyed a bathroom stall. Shit on the seat, the floor, etc. Spa attendant cleaned it, but the smell was still overwhelming, and she didn't know why until she found the woman's shit covered panties in the trash. The end. PS please don't diarrhea on everything in a spa. I mean honestly, a picture of the shotgun shitter in the women's bathroom. My department is practically all women, so one day one of them is talking about the 4th floor in our building and how she walked into the bathroom to open the door to one of the most horrid smells ever. As she walks in she opens the door to the stall and there the nightmare is. The picture she showed me made me want to puke instantly. Off green/brown shit everywhere in the stalls. It almost looked like at one point they slipped in it on the floor. This wasn't like a disgruntled employee doing this to be an ass. This was straight up shotgun blast shit. Turns out it had been going on daily for a few weeks. It got so bad that our workplace to sign on the women's door to the bathroom saying, if you are the individual causing the mess in the women's bathroom, please see a doctor or contact our health services line at 1-800*****. There was also a picture I was shown from the women's bathroom on our floor where a lady decided at work was the time to shave her lady parts. There was a legit pile of pubes all over the floor. My dad worked at a big department store as a janitor. He always said the women's bathroom was hands down the nastiest. He always would yell about the hoverers lol. I have two, and they're both pretty wild. When I was delivering pizza for a really common pizza company in college and got a standard delivery to a place in my town not far away, but kind of isolated and off the main road. Pulled up and outside a big locked gate are two big Mexican dudes with what looked like assault rifles. Before I could turn around one of them walked up to the car and waved at me and told me to wait in the car. Other guy goes over to the gate and opens it. From inside come about a dozen pit bulls who looked pretty mad. Then another big Mexican guy comes out to the car to get the pizza. He hands me a $100 bill for a $15 pizza. I didn't have change. He says to get the bill changed and come back, and in the meantime he's hold on to pizza. One of the guards took a picture of my license plate/car. I went down to the bank nearby and they made change really quickly. I headed back. He told me I was slow and late getting back. I gave him his change and then he stiffed me on the tip. Needless to say we put a blacklist on this phone number and address and nobody was allowed to take deliveries to them again. Fast forward a few years. Got posted to teach English in Japan for the G program. Ended up in Yamanashi Prefecture near Tokyo. One day pretty early on in my first year, was asked to host a couple of experienced English teachers for an overpass English camp we were having for our advanced English class. I agreed. The students ended up staying at some educational center for the weekend, but me and these two other teachers ended up at an onsen hotel nearby in a really nice room. I'm 22 at the time, and the other teachers are in their 40s, so we decide to go have a drink at the hotel lobby bar in the evening. We get downstairs and there are a ton of people milling about in their yukata, robes, or ramen. They're smoking and talking, joking around etc. They don't really pay us any mind as we walk into the bar. As soon as we set foot in the bar we knew we'd messed up. The doors close behind us, and the entire bar is packed with Yakuza all in robes or half naked showing their full body tattoos. They're all drinking like crazy, singing karaoke etc. There are also about 15 escorts who are in various stages of undress or wearing the same uniform, basically a bra and skirt with nothing underneath. Many are on the verge of being nude as well. We turn to leave without saying a word, but the guys at the door won't let us and point over to a booth where a couple older guys and one really older guy are drinking with a couple of girls. They're waving for us to come over. We politely oblige and they tell us to sit down and then order us beers. I'm the only one of us three who could speak decent enough Japanese, or at least the other guys were playing it like they didn't know any, so I kind of turn into the interpreter for the night. They keep us there for hours. They wanted to know about England and soccer and American football rules. They ask all kinds of stuff about which we like better, American girls or Japanese girls. They offer us around with the girls they've got there. We are freaking the hell out and keep trying to leave. One of the guys grabs me by the balls and asks how big I'm downstairs. I laugh it off and try to get out of there. Right after they made us sing some show tunes they all up and leave. On their way out they invite us to come along and explain what all of this is. We'd apparently stumbled into a Yakuza Japan tour of various hot springs that they are all on vacation together for. They just happened to be staying the same night at the same place as us, but would move on to a different city the next day, all just drinking and savoring the local entertainment. They invite us along. We politely decline. One of the guys gives me his card on the way out and says if I ever have any trouble to give him a call and he'll help me out. When all was said and done we went up to settle our tab, fearing the damage we'd done to our wallets, hoping we hadn't got billed for the escorts. They paid for all of our drinks and we didn't owe a dime. In the end me and the other two teachers became friends. Haha. They decided not to hold the English teachers overnight after that, though afraid of a repeat. I used to work at a budget store in the Netherlands. We had all sorts of crazy ass customers, but one lady made me almost pee my pants from laughing, while at the same time asking myself if I should call 112 R911. A woman came into the store. She was screaming and crying into her phone. She looked kind of like she could have been an addict or prostitute, or both. Both of those are kind of legal in our country. She came up to me at the register, still crying, but she had hung up the phone by now. She looked at me. I asked her if she was okay. She tried to change the subject, I thought, by telling me how much she felt like eating cake right now. I feel like we can all relate to that at some point. Next thing, she looked into her purse, looked up at me with a big smile on her face and said, "Holy duck. I have a cake in my bag." She paid for her stuff, sat on the floor next to the register, pulled out the cake, and started eating it with her hands. Keep in mind it was a pretty busy day, so everyone saw her, looked at her with a "ugh she's a mess" kind of face, but said nothing. Because I had a strong feeling the person she talked to on the phone was likely her pimp, I just let her sit there and finish the whole cake. We made some small talk when there were no customers I needed to help. My supervisor even brought her a glass of water. This was a few years ago, but I still think of this moment every now and then. And as I got older I realized that at some point of my life I was in a sitting on the floor eating cake with my hands kind of state. Even if people are at their breaking point, you still have to show respect and sometimes just let them be. They might need just that, letting them be. I had broken up with my ex-girlfriend. We also worked at the same place, which is a terrible idea. I was young and dumb. She was young and a little crazy. Edit. After reading this again, I feel compelled to add something. She was no more crazy than I was. We were both young and dumb. Those things seem to go together. I did not mean to imply I was any better. I certainly was not. Young people may not understand it at the moment. Older people will. Apologies if anyone is still reading. I did not mean to mislead. We also lived together in a 2-bedroom apartment. We had planned on getting a roommate to share the rent, but all this happened before we found a roommate. Lucky for that person. Anyway, she cheated on me repeatedly in our spare bedroom. I caught her for the 3rd time and banged on the door again. I suggested, loudly I admit, that we had some things to discuss and consider in terms of our future. She finished with him and he exited. No problems there. I really was never into violence or even mental or verbal confrontation. The next Monday, she comes into work and is an absolute demon. She races up and down the halls shouting at saleswomen, other female associates, the receptionists, and is accusing them all of sleeping with me. None of that was true. All of these women were in long relationships or just friends. There was literally no reason she should think these things. Finally, the office manager calls the cops and has her arrested. A couple days later, she shows up at the apartment to collect her things. She has her new boyfriend with her, and they are just about finished getting all her stuff out of the apartment. She comes up to get the last box. She says, "He's waiting in the car." Cool, I say. Hope it works out. "Anything else I can do for you?" She responds, "Anything at all?" And the madness in her eyes is deep, very deep. So I respond like anyone would, "I could use a blowjob." She drops to her knees in front of my couch and does it. Were I older, as I'm now, I would have been terrified about what teeth can do to sensitive flesh. But, as I said, I was young and dumb. She finishes, swallows, collects her final box, and heads down to the parking lot, where she envelops this unknowing guy in a full-blown French kiss with my cum still in her mouth. I never saw or heard from her again. It remains in the top 15 or so bizarre things I have ever been involved in. I don't know what either of us was thinking. I guess hormones can really get crazy. An experience at the preschool, located within an upscale subdivision that I worked at a few years ago. I managed to fall and twist my knee really badly while on the job. Someone, I think it was a parent picking a child up, called 911, and when they told the dispatcher what happened, something was miscommunicated, and they somehow got that the preschool was in a hostage situation. Within minutes the parking lot was full of cops, fire trucks and EMS personnel. Apparently they had tried to call the school before they came, and the supervisor was out of the office and her assistant didn't answer it, so they assumed the worst. Once they made contact with the supervisor, they wanted to come in and check all of the rooms just in case. On top of all of the emergency personnel, a lot of parents had heard something happened at the school and they were parking along the road and curb trying to get inside, but police stopped them because 1, they were still investigating, and 2, I was being loaded into an ambulance, which made it all look much worse than it truly was. I heard it took hours for all of the crazy to die down. Once the police were satisfied that the school was safe and cleared out, we never figured out who called 911 or how the dispatcher got that there was a hostage situation when it was just a fall. When my dad arrived to drive me home, I was in a brace and pick up my kids who were at the preschool. All my son could talk about was the policeman who had passed out some stickers and plastic badges to the kids to calm the kids down. All of them left laughing about the situation. I worked in a major electronics store that shall remain nameless, but you can probably guess, as a second job for about 2 years. The counter for my debt was right at the end of the hallway that went to both restrooms. I'm a woman, and was the only woman in my department. One by one, women were coming out of the ladies' room and whispering to me that the ladies' room needed some attention. I ignored them for a bit and did the typical not my job thing in my head. After about 20 women walked by, not an exaggeration as it was a weekend and this store was very close to the mall, and said the same thing, I decided to take a look. It looked like a crime scene. There was urine, mixed with feces, mixed with diarrhea, mixed with blood all over the floor. One of the stalls, out of only 4, was overflowing with much of the same and toilet paper. The same stall was against the wall and there was fecal matter and blood on the walls. The 2 sinks had blood and all kinds of stuff in them. The drains in the floor, which were supposed to help in case of a toilet overflowing, got backed up because of the solid waste, so stuff was starting to pool. All of this I could see from just standing in the doorway. I backed out slowly and radioed to someone that I was guarding the door so no one could come in and that it needed attention immediately. A guy came with a mop and did the best he could. It was horrifying. A little girl came to use it while he was cleaning, and I advised her to just go in another store. I heard from some employees that had been in there when the destruction started that it was all caused by one woman who had an accident and cleaned herself in the sink. I suppose it's nothing super crazy, but I do remember this day very vividly. I used to work at a Subway restaurant, and it was located in kind of a shady neighborhood. We had this African American couple walk in one day and kind of linger around the store. The guy was wearing bright green neon pants and the woman was wearing a light blue top that was clearly too small for her. The man eventually went into the men's restroom and was in there for a good 20 to 25 minutes. Eventually, he came back out and he and his girlfriend walked up to us and asked about a sandwich we, at the time, didn't serve anymore. Disappointed, they left the restaurant and then came back a few minutes later and just sat at one of the tables. We tried to politely ask them to leave, but they refused because it was too hot out there, chief. After a few moments went by, they walked outside and some cops that frequent our store walked in and came up to the register. They asked me if I had seen two African American people, one wearing neon green pants and the other wearing a light blue top. I told them they were just here and left about 5 minutes prior to their arrival. My shift was over about 10 minutes after that, and as I walked outside the place was surrounded by about 3 to 4 cop cars. My mom was picking me up that day and she was freaking out. Apparently, the couple had robbed a nearby convenience store and walked over here to try and evade the police. As I was entering my mom's car, the woman yelled out to the police, "Y'all don't know who you're fucking with. I'm the motherfucking queen of this whole neighborhood." Pretty interesting way to end the day. I used to work at a gas station in suburban Oregon. Once, super late at night, around 2 in the morning, a huge tour bus pulled into the fueling area. The door opened up and at least 20 drunk Russian men poured out of the bus and into the gas station. It was rather surreal. They didn't cause any problems, but I was never able to find out who they were or what they were doing on such a large bus so late at night. On a different night, a gang of bikers pulled into fuel up, and I swear the boss almost killed one of his subordinates for talking back. It was one of the most tense situations I've ever been in. Me and all of the other workers were actually semi-hiding behind the car wash while it went down. Once, a bunch of extremely death metal looking people came in after a concert to use the bathroom and buy some food. After they left, one of the workers went in to clean the bathroom and found a baggie that had over a dozen morphine pills and several methadone in it. One other time, a lady pulled into the fueling area with about 10 cop cars and several cops following her. She refused to open her door, so they broke the window and tased the shit out of her. On a different, otherwise uneventful evening, out of nowhere a massive convoy of cop cars and cops started pouring in from every direction all over town and all went down one specific street. We just assumed there was a meth lab bust going down. My favorite night though was when some dudes ran out of gas just as they reached the station. They said they didn't have money to buy gas, so I got some for them. In return, they gave me a massive gob of rather high quality THC oil. I had a good time after getting off work that day. Thank you so much for watching the whole video. Please leave a like and subscribe.